you looking to sharpen your budgeting skills? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Budget Couple Podcast, where we talk about life, family, and how to afford it. And now, the Budget Couple themselves, Nate and Danielle.
Welcome to the Budget Couple Podcast. I'm Nate.
And I'm Danielle.
And this week, we're going to be talking about summer savings. In particular, ways that we've saved money this summer. Because I go without a paycheck all summer. I'm a 10-month employee of my school, so I don't have a paycheck this summer. And budgeting for it's not that difficult. We've talked about it before, but we're going to talk about some extra ways that you could possibly save money during the summer or really any time. This is going to go over different things that we did with our vehicles, with our vacation, and even things we do for entertainment. So it's going to cover a wide swath of different information, and we're going to kind of go over that. Before we do that, we do want to thank you for listening to our show. If you like our show, if you could please leave us a review on your podcast listener of choice. It really helps grow the show and grow the audience, and we thank all of you who have left good reviews so far. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this.
Okay, so to start out, we're going to talk about something we did for our car that helped us save some money. And I will say outright that this took some convincing on Nate's part. You know, this is, if you've listened to us before, this is one of those things where he kind of had to make a spreadsheet for me and do a little business presentation and really convince me on this. So
I get a little confident in my abilities to do things sometimes, and Danielle is not as confident in my abilities all the time. So some things we do, but let's go back here. Our car, we knew needed some maintenance done to it. It's 6 years old. It has 83-ish thousand miles on it. It's a Honda Civic, so it's nothing special, but it needed some work. We needed an oil change, which is something I don't do because I don't have the little lift things. And it also needed some transmission fluid changed out in it, which is something I have no idea how to do. So we took it to the dealership because they wound up being able to get us in quickest and also for a decent price. And they also, when we were done doing those things, said we needed basically another $1,000 worth of work, or they suggested another $1,000 worth of work. Yes. One of those things was to get the engine and air filters, or the engine air filters, cleaned out. The cabin filter is there to filter the air conditioning and heating, and the engine filter filters the air going into your engine. Both are necessary, but they charge between $50 and $100 for each of those actions to happen. Now, I looked online real quick, and this is something I've done for years now at this point. It takes about a minute to change each of these. It requires no technical expertise. The engine air filter, you lift up the hood, remove the engine air cover, pull the old one out, put the new one in, put the cover back on, and close the hood. 100% done. It cost us $6 for our engine air filter, and they run anywhere between $6 and $20 depending on your car. So we saved a bunch of money. They charged they would charge about $75 at our local dealership for that to happen. It cost me $6 and about a minute and a half worth of time. The cabin filter, they charge about $55 for. This is another $6 to $8 filter that goes in. Ours is located in our glove compartment, which is where most of them are located at. You just open up the glove compartment, remove the little back panel, and slide it in. Again, it's on little tabs, no technical expertise needed, and you can save a bunch of money that way.
This is something I've allowed him to do for a long time.
Yeah, this is
no
easy.
issues here.
You're not actually doing anything to the functionality of the car. It's really super safe, really super easy. You're not like grabbing stuff out and putting things on. It's just a quick swap and you're done. You just need to pay attention to which way the arrows are going so the air filters the correct way, and that's pretty much it. But the big part of that $1,000 worth of stuff they said that we needed were brakes. And we've known for a while that we needed brakes. We tried to get our brakes done in the past, and they said we still had a little life on them. And I looked around and looked at different prices and stuff, and our dealership came back with $450, which was about the going rate in our area for our style of car and our style of brakes. That was a big pill to swallow, and I don't think either of us were super enthused about that.
But also, I mean, we were expecting it. It was just the front brakes, and we knew we'd had this expense coming up. And, you know, it's around here, things are just more expensive usually than the national average. But still, we were hoping not to spend $450. And so Nate, of course, started doing some research and YouTubing, as he tends to do.
Absolutely.
Usually after I go to bed. And he started trying to make the case that he could potentially do it himself. And to me, the thought of doing brakes yourself is terrifying, especially when you're just not like a car person. You're not like into that and it's not something you do on a regular basis, it seemed like a stretch for me to think about one of us doing that on our own.
Yeah, so I was looking into it, especially when I was looking around at prices, and I kept finding all these forum posts saying that like the dealerships and getting it done by anybody else is really just a ripoff. And I looked into it. The parts for brake pads and rotors was around $120 total. So a lot of that $450 we're paying is just labor. And then I looked into it a little more and I needed a few new tools. So total, what I spent on doing the brakes after I convinced Danielle that I could do this, was $203.15. I have it marked down to the T. So that's a savings of roughly about $250. I was able to do the brakes and the brake pads, and the rotor, should I say. All that took me an afternoon or so in between some thunderstorm and me losing a bolt.
Yeah, about 3 or 4 hours. But then, the losing of the bolt really put a damper on things.
And I'm sure that if I had to do it again, I could do it a lot quicker because I know what to do now and it's not a big deal. But it wasn't really that hard to do. I just had to jack the car up, remove the tire, remove the caliper, remove the brakes, grip the rotor off, put a new rotor on, and then put the new brakes onto the caliper and put the caliper back on. It's not that hard of a thing. It's really, I think 6 bolts is what I had to undo, not including getting the wheel off of the car. And I was able to do it. And obviously I put myself in the car and took it on a test drive before anybody else went in there, and it worked perfectly. I have no complaints about it. I think it rides a lot nicer now. It brakes definitely a lot better. And it was not a big deal. But one thing here is that, make sure you're comfortable with stuff like this. If you're not comfortable, don't do it. Just pay the money and go ahead and have a professional do it. I'm totally comfortable going ahead and removing bolts off the car and doing that kind of stuff. But I also know the risk that if I mess something up or if I do it wrong, I could potentially cost us a whole lot more money. I was comfortable taking that risk because it's something that doesn't really bother me. And when I looked into it, it was pretty simple. But if you're not there, not a problem. There's no judgment or anything. Just have somebody else do it for you and you'll get it done right.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that made me really nervous because you're not only risking a lot of money, you're risking your lives if your brakes don't work. Now, for us, it was just the front brakes at least, but even so, it's, I watched the videos with him. I made sure he had a good understanding of what he was doing, and I was still a little nervous about it. But it does work great. We've been on the brakes for a month or so now with no issue. But yeah, I mean, I would reiterate that this is not something we're suggesting everybody just go out and do themselves. But if you have the interest, the know-how, it's just something to think about. If there's anything you can kind of do yourself around the house or for your cars, think about it, because it does save you quite a bit of money.
Yeah, really do your research. Look on YouTube. It's a phenomenal resource for learning how to do almost anything. And you can save a whole lot of money very quickly just by doing a little bit of research and seeing if you're comfortable or not doing what they're doing.
So we're going to change gears a little bit now.
Because cars.
Yeah, look at that. I didn't even mean to. So we missed a week or two here recently, and we have somewhat of a good excuse. We actually went on vacation.
We were abroad in the wonderful nation of Canada.
So we wanted to do a trip with our almost 4-year-old to see how he would handle a trip that wasn't all about him. As you guys know, we went to Disney last year, but that was a kind of a trip all about him. So this one was a bit different. This was a little bit of sightseeing for us too, mixed in, and it was longer. We were there for 8-9 days, and it was also international. Even though it was Canada, we went to Montreal and Quebec City, and if you guys know anything about those cities, it's definitely French speaking. So it was sort of our Europe light to see how things went. But I've done a couple podcasts. Well, I guess both of us.
We have done podcasts.
We've done a couple episodes that have focused on travel and how we budget for travel, save on travel, our planning and such. But I'm just going to focus on a couple of the things that we did for our Canada trip. And right up front, I'll admit that we were not looking to pinch every penny and save a ton of money. We're just at the point where we're okay splurging a little bit for vacation. And if we have a $50, $75 meal, we're not going to freak out about it.
Right. It's already been budgeted for. We have a general budget that we're willing to spend, and we know food is going to run inside of there. And we don't go out and splurge like crazy. But if there's one meal that we're going to spend a little bit more money on, we're okay doing that, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and same with a museum or an activity or something. If it's something you're only going to see once because you're in that city and that's the only place you can see it, we're okay spending that money now. I wouldn't say we were like that maybe 10 years ago.
No, we definitely had to pinch pennies a lot more when our budget was a lot tighter. But as we've budgeted and as we've increased our income, we've been able to splurge a little bit more on things that we probably would not have done when we were younger and didn't have as much money.
All right, getting down to some of the ways we did try and save money. And this is just to me things I'm like, I don't want to throw away my money. I don't care how much I have. If I was a millionaire, still don't want to throw away my money. So food-wise, we really like to try and eat at least one meal, sometimes two, in our hotel or Airbnb. And this could be as simple as bringing a box of cereal with us or a bunch of oatmeal.
Which we did both.
Yeah, just to at least have breakfast with us in the morning. We also like to do Airbnb, and this is something that's kind of a personal choice preference, but it tends to be easier to get a kitchen or at least a kitchenette type thing. And that in itself makes it easier to do some cooking or at least have some storage for food. So we had kitchens in both cities, and we went out to grocery stores our first day or two in the city, picked up some fresh fruit. We picked up some, lunch meat sandwiches, tossed them in the fridge, had them for lunch the next day. So we were able to get at least 1 to 2 meals in the actual room, and that saved us a boatload of money. Food is not cheap in cities.
Especially in tourist areas of cities.
Yeah. So, that did save us quite a bit of money. And it also allowed us to have some fresh fruit because you don't get that a lot when you go out to restaurants. So highly recommend trying to work that in somehow. The other big thing we always try and look for is any sort of passes. And so this could be like a public transportation pass instead of doing one ways or just, single tickets on metro or buses or something. Just really look for those 3-day tourist passes. And they're almost always a good deal, but do the math and make sure that they are. They're also convenient. You don't have to keep buying stuff. You can just buy this one card that's with you the whole time. Same goes with tickets for museums and activities and that sort of thing. Sometimes that's a good deal when they're packaged together. Sometimes it's not. You can get a 3-day museum pass or something in a city. And I like to it's a little work, but I like to go through and find every single, entrance fee to each place and add them together and see if it's an actual good deal. Because if you're not going to every single one of them, it might not be. Just something to look at, though. Yeah,
and also with those, you can purchase things in advance, which may allow you to either skip lines or just be able to get into a place a lot quicker. Particularly when we visited Europe, we were able to skip lots of lines. Some of the places, to see Michelangelo's David, has a 2 to 3 hour line just to buy tickets to get in. We bought them online and walked right into the place and never had to wait in line. It was great.
Yeah, it just depends on where you are. We never had to deal with that in Montreal and Quebec City. So it really does depend on the city. Another thing that we noticed, particularly in this area, we're along a river for both of the cities. And we have a almost 4-year-old that really likes all modes of transportation. And he was excited about being on a boat. And there's also great views of the cities from the river. So we wanted to get out on the river. But the cost of river cruises were pretty steep. And for us, a lot of them were leaving way too late in the evening when he would already be in bed. So we actually started looking into ferries. There was quite a few ferries that ran from place to place. And these are so cheap. Seriously, it was $3 a person, $3 Canadian a person. Super cheap. So it got us out on the water. It got him out on the water, and it gave us beautiful views of the city for just a fraction of the cost of what we would have paid on a river cruise. So highly recommend checking something like that out if you have the chance.
And one last thing to check out is if you have season passes to any chain-based thing, check and see if there's locations in your area. We purchased Six Flags season passes, and there happens to be a Six Flags in Montreal. So we were able to go there at no additional cost. Speaking of that Six Flags, we got that last November in 2018. They were running a holiday sale, and it cost $50 a person. It was good for the rest of 2018 and all of this year, which takes you to like January 1st or I should say December 31st of this year.
He's not really good at calendars.
Stop it. So we're good there. So for $50, we were able to do that. Right now, check and see if season passes make sense to you. If I were to go on our Six Flags website right now, a daily ticket costs $52.99. If the season pass is not on sale, it's $73.99. So essentially, if you plan on going more than once, get the pass. You're going to save a lot of money. You also generally get free parking. At least we did. So parking normally is $20 a ticket, or $20 a car, should I say. So you can save a lot of money that way as well. So that's one way we've saved a lot. Now, Danielle's working during the summer, but me and the boy have been at Six Flags at least once, if not...
Good for them.
Yeah. At least once, if not twice a week this entire summer. We were actually there today. Danielle got to join us. But we've been there a lot. It's been something that we do. We don't spend a ton of time there because he's 3, almost 4, and needs a nap by the time we go. But we get to spend some quality hours there and have a lot of fun. And it was totally worth that $50 a person, because every time we go, it brings that average ticket price down.
It was definitely worth doing. And I actually was, again, skeptical when Nate told me about this. But seeing how cheap it was, I was also skeptical because it's an hour away from us. But, it's an hour drive, but it provides 2-3 hours of entertainment for him. And it's a huge deal for him. He absolutely loves it, and we have a good time. And it's once you pay those initial season passes, it's completely like a free afternoon of fun or a free morning of fun. So.
And even if we weren't to other places, like more locally, like pools, a pool or a splash park near us costs about $5 a person to get in. I think they're actually $5.50. So it'd be about $11 for us to get in. And it's going to take us 20 minutes to get there. So when you add that in, or if we drove to Six Flags an hour away, the cost of gas and tolls is basically the same as what it would cost to get into a splash park or a pool near us. So again, it's not really costing us any more money for an activity that we really very much enjoy. And Six Flags also has a water park near us, so we got to do that as well. One thing that we recently did that, again, I had to convince Danielle of, she was not on board. I think I might have actually kind of purchased them.
Yeah, he actually told me about it, asked me about it. I said we could talk about it at some point, and next thing I know, they were already purchased. So
the deal was running out. It was
Yeah.
a really good deal, and she didn't understand how good of a deal it was. But what we got was a
Clearly.
dining plan. They were on sale. We purchased 2 of them, one for me and one for the boy. And we did that because, one, Danielle doesn't come with us as much as what she would probably like. And then number 2, the portion sizes. If we order 2 full meals for Danielle and myself, that feeds all 3 of us. Now, it's not going to feed 3 full-grown adults, but it feeds a 3-year-old and 2 grown adults. They were at $40 a person, so that cost us $80. And if the boy and I were to go and spend our money on the food normally, it probably costs us about $40 a visit. So again, after 2 visits, it makes sense. It includes a meal, and it also includes a snack. And the snacks are pretty awesome. We usually get like this massive milkshake that has like 6 scoops of ice cream in it. And
3. He likes to exaggerate.
There's 2 of them.
2, sorry. I like to exaggerate, apparently.
So it doesn't really cost us anything for that, because that's normally like an $8 treat that you would get, and we get it for quote unquote free after that initial upcharge price. The only thing we don't do is we don't buy drinks at the park. So soda or water or whatever, we don't buy that stuff because parks are required by law to give out small glasses of water if there's not a water fountain within 100 feet. This is something I learned when I was at a camp that went across the country to different amusement parks when I was in college. I was not on the camp itself. I was a counselor for the camp. But our director was really about making sure that the kids maximize their money, so he wouldn't let us let them buy drinks and stuff because they wanted to go on rides. But we'd stop at the food stands and such and get drinks of water. Didn't cost us anything, and it was a good way to stay hydrated and to keep moving through the park without having to wait in a lot of lines.
And we've had really no bad luck with this with Six Flags. We just ask them, we order our food, and we ask them to give us 3 cups of water, and it's just those little plastic cups that they give you, and it's always sufficient. And there are water fountains around, so if you want to refill that way, you can. So it's, it's the easiest way to do things for us. And it also reduces the amount of like sugary soda you're drinking.
Absolutely. So those are the ways that we've saved money this summer. I'm sure we've done others, but these are the big ones that we've been able to keep ourselves entertained. We've been able to go on vacation, and we're also able to take the car all at a discounted price from what we would normally have to pay if we weren't being conscious of our budget. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks again for listening to our show. If you have any questions, please visit budgetcouple.com and click on that contact form, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Thanks so much again for listening, and we'll see you in our next episode.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Budget Couple Podcast with your hosts, Nate and Danielle. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit budgetcouple.com. Make sure to check out the next episode of the Budget Couple Podcast, where we'll talk more about life, family, and how to afford it. We'll catch you next time.